Hey everybody, John here. Welcome back to Catbird Hill. So it's the last day of 2020 and I couldn't think of a better way to close out the year than to fire up a chainsaw and cut some wood. So we're at the back of our property right now. Well, not all the way back, probably halfway back. And it's been a really tough year here in southeastern Pennsylvania, the mid-Atlantic area. We've had a ton of very heavy rain this year. A lot of 4 or 5 inch rainfalls that flood this wet area, this low area back here where we have our creek. And as a result, a lot of trees that normally would grow up along the edge of the bank, the soil just eroded away during all this flooding and took a lot of our trees down. So what I want to do today is actually just cut a path, just open this up, just make a little path. I'm going to deal with the rest of the wood at a later time, but I do want to be able to get through here. And we're going to do something fun. We're going to use a chainsaw that, this is a great story. This is an Stihl MS-271. So I had been looking at getting a Stihl MS-261, which is kind of the pro version of this same size chainsaw. This was considered kind of a heavy-duty ranch farm type saw, and then the next level up is the professional level of saw, which is the MS-261. Both have great reputations. This saw, brand new, right out of the store, is about $175 cheaper than the MS-261. That's what I found in the area. So I was in one of my local Stihl dealers, and I was looking for the 261, and I happened to see this saw sitting on the floor in front of the display area with the chainsaws, and it had a tag on it that said sold as is, customer returned. So I found one of the guys who works in that area, and he said the customer returned it, said that it just wouldn't run consistently, wouldn't run properly. And I said, well, what kind of a deal could you give me on this if I just bought it as is? And so we talked a little bit, negotiated a little bit, and I ended up getting this MS-271 for probably about 40% less than a brand new one, right out of the box, with no issues. So I got the saw home and I took a careful look at it. And what I noticed was there was a lot of fuel mix, sort of burnt fuel mix, coming out from underneath of this muffler area here. And usually, in my experience, I'm not a chainsaw mechanic, but I've run a lot of chainsaws over the years. Usually when you see a lot of that, the person who's starting it's actually flooding it. They're either not familiar with the starting procedures, or they're not using the right procedures, and they're just pumping too much fuel into the carburetor. That fuel eventually gets pushed through the exhaust side of the cylinder, and you get a lot of leakage of that. So I cleaned it all up, and I put new fuel in it, and literally I started it up, and I've run it a couple times since. It's run perfectly. There's been no issue at all. So I think it was just a matter of a customer who wasn't familiar with starting the chainsaw, maybe hadn't read the manual. I have found over the years that particularly in some of the modern chainsaws, they seem to flood very easily. I have a number of saws that are relatively new, like 5 years old or less, Husqvarna's, Stihls, and I don't even choke them. I can start them cold without a choke with no trouble at all. If I choke them even a little bit for 1 or 2 pulls and I don't get that pop, they flood. They just flood immediately. So I don't know if that's just something different in the saw manufacturing today, but let's fire it up and let's see. We'll do a little cutting here. I'm not going to bore you with tons of cutting, but we'll try to cut a little bit of a path through here. It's getting ready to start raining soon, so I want to try to get as much of this done as possible. Not a real pleasant day here in southeastern Pennsylvania. It's probably 35 degrees, a little light sprinkle. It's just a raw day, so a good day to put some gear on and do some chainsawing.
Oh.
making a little headway there. Just try to clear out a little better footpath. It is kind of muddy today because of all the rain we've had. So what I think I'm going to do is, this is a pretty nice log. This is maple, silver maple, which grows like a weed, has grown like a weed around here. Unfortunately, silver maple's life is about 75 years at the most, and it just dies out. So, but it tends to be really beautiful wood. So I'm gonna try to make about an 8-foot log out of this. Maybe 10 foot. I'm going to drop it on the other side and hopefully be able to pull that out with my tractor, and that would be a great log for sawmilling to make some really nice wood. So what we'll do is just kind of crawl around on the other side, get rid of some of these small branches. I'm going to see if I can't cut this on the other side and just let it drop down. I'll be able to use the tractor to pull it out of the way. Easier said than done. that went pretty well. So it's a pretty good sized log. It's probably, see if I can move you guys over a little bit. Pardon me, I don't quite have all the high-tech equipment yet. Santa Claus brought me a few things, but not everything. It's okay. So it's a pretty decent sized log. Probably at its widest, maybe 14, 15 inches, somewhere around there. I've got a good, gosh, 8 or 9 feet. It's kind of pretty with the moss covering it. It's a shame the tree went down. It actually was a pretty nice tree. And you can see the rest of it there. This was probably close to a 75 or 80 foot tree. It's kind of hard to see where the end of the canopy would be. But if we take you over here, you can see what happens, which is, you know, a lot of times people look at that and they think, oh, it's so sad, you know, it's what a terrible tragedy for the tree. And I can certainly understand that. You know, when we moved out in the country almost 20 years ago, we had those same feelings being city folk. But, you know, this is the cycle of nature. And, you know, there's a reason this stuff happens, and, you know, the landscape adapts and moves forward. You know, you know, certainly I'm not going to do anything to that stump. I'll probably cut the tree somewhere probably about there where it just begins to hit land. That'll give me another 8, 9 foot section. Pretty nice section, actually. And, you know, this stuff just happens. It's part of nature, and, you know, we've gotten accustomed to it and look at it and think, you know, this, all we enjoy here, our whole property, isn't really for us. You know, we're very privileged and lucky to be the caretakers of it for however long we, you know, get to live on this earth. But, you know, we want to do things now that preserve it for the next owners and the next owners, and for, you know, hundreds of years from now, hopefully people can enjoy what we've enjoyed. So, you know, a lot of what we end up doing is stuff like this. You know, a tree comes down, you try to salvage as much of it as you can that's usable. You can turn it into something else that's very useful. And, you know, you let nature continue to work its own magic to repair things that have been damaged or have been lost. So we're going to end the video here. Happy New Year to everyone. Well, I think we did our job today fairly well. We got our opening somewhat here. At least now you can fairly easily step over the log to get out to see our creek. So a little more work left to do, pulling this log out of the way and getting that other one out. But thanks for joining me today. Happy New Year, everybody, and try to do more videos in the coming year. Take care.